I was on a consulting call with a client recently and I thought I absolutely have to share this with you guys because this client had made not silly, not stupid, but some very, very costly targeting mistakes. And I'm sure that there are tons of people within my audience that have made the same targeting mistakes. They're very easy to make. They're not stupid. They're not things that you might think would be a big deal, but they can be very, very costly. So fortunately, this client gave me permission to share their setup, provided I kept it all anonymous. So what I'm going to do in this video is show you what their targeting setup was, why there are so many mistakes in it, and how you should set up the targeting in your Facebook ad campaign. So if you're running Facebook ads right now, this is going to be a really, really valuable video. So in order to keep everything anonymous, what I've done is I've recreated their campaign, their ad sets, their targeting setup within an example Facebook ad account of ours. And we've got two different ad sets here. We've got one cold audience and one warm audience ad set, because unsurprisingly, they had different setups for each ad set and the targeting, obviously, but also the mistakes made were different across the two, and they really need to be treated as different things. So I'm going to walk you through each one. We'll start with the cold audience ad set. Now, before we get into this, I need to quickly tell you about the industry, because that's going to play into this. It's men's sports apparel, fitness, gym-related apparel, clothing, things like that you exercise in across a number of ranges, a range of different activities is what they're selling in e-commerce business. So anyway, let's scroll down. Firstly, they had a lookalike audience based on a 1% lookalike audience in the US. That's where they sell their product, based on all website visitors over the last 180 days. Not got a problem with that. That's a decent lookalike audience. Definitely something we would test. If you were only running the one lookalike audience, we would switch this out for a lookalike audience based on previous customers, people who triggered the purchase, conversion events, something like that. That's likely to be higher value. But if you're testing a range of lookalike audiences, you know, including all website visitors is absolutely fine. No issue with that. Next, they were excluding everyone that had bought from them previously, so everyone in their customer list. Now, I do have an issue with that. I don't like excluding previous customers really at all. There are a few exceptions I'll explain in a minute, but I certainly wouldn't want you to exclude all your previous customers when you're advertising products, in this case, that people can either buy again or buy more of. That's a really big no-no. You're missing out on some of your best possible prospects. And when I was talking to this client, what this business owner explained, and I've heard this a lot before, is they go, well, what's the point in paying to advertise to people that have already bought from me before? Surely they're on my email list, they'll remember the product, surely they'll buy again anyway. And that's just not true. It's just not how it works, unless you're selling something that is massive and life-changing for someone, which is very rare. I mean, you're talking like a house or a car, something really huge that they're going to remember, and maybe they don't need to see ads for because they're interacting with it all the time. Unless you're selling something like that, which is almost no advertisers, the reminders really do help. People aren't going through their lives thinking about the product of yours that they bought and how they'd like to go to your website and check out all the other products that you may offer. It's just not how life works. It's too busy. Putting your ads in front of people that have already bought from you before is absolutely something that you want to do. So I would absolutely get rid of this exclusion. Just to clarify, this is not us targeting people on the customer list here. This is the way this is set up, exclude people who are at least one of the following. This is designed to exclude anyone from previous customer lists, so none of those people would see ads. I would absolutely get rid of that. That's a big targeting mistake. And look, if you really, really wanted to include some sort of exclusion around previous customers, you don't want to have to pay to advertise to them again, then adding in, say, an exclusion from people who have bought within the last 14 days or people who have bought within the last 30 days, maybe, that would be okay, but I'd still much rather you left it off. I think it causes more harm than good. And just think, the percentage of your total audience size that is made up by your previous customers is going to be absolutely minuscule. So it's not going to cost a lot to reach those people, but they are fantastic prospects. Then we get down to location targeting. If I click into edit, we have a quick look at the graph. And I may not have the cities exactly right as what they have it. I think it's pretty close. But you can see what this client is. Let me zoom in. What this client was looking to do is they figured that their customer were people who live in and around big cities. So they were trying to target the major cities across the US, right? And I understand why they would want to do that. They're thinking that's where my customers are from. I can save money by not advertising to the whole country. It's not really how Facebook works. If you are going to go with something like a lookalike audience with your cold audience, but even with detailed targeting options, you are much better off just going with the whole of the US if that's where you can sell your product. Here's why. Facebook will work out if your best prospects come from the major cities, and they will target those people. But Facebook will also work out that person that lives in rural Idaho that is a perfect prospect for whatever it is that you happen to sell. You don't want to miss out on those people. That can add up to a lot across a country like this. So what I would be looking to do, instead of just the specific cities is go ahead and add in the entire country. You make your audience larger, which all things being equal is better. Trust Facebook here, give Facebook more leeway. Now, of course, if you're just limiting yourself to specific locations because that's the only places where you can deliver your product or service, then stick with those. Don't open up to the whole country if you can't deliver in those locations. But in this case, where this company can and does ship all across the US, target the whole US. Don't overthink it. Next, they've gone with a fairly specific age range, 25 to 35. For something like this, you know, men's sports apparel, that's narrower than it should be. There's 100% going to be 24-year-olds that are interested in this product, and there's 100% going to be 37-year-olds that are interested in this. So I was saying, look, I think this is a little bit too specific. There's no reason to keep yourself targeted in that much. What I would be looking to do in this sort of case would probably be open it up to something like 18 or 21. The products weren't super expensive, and put this all the way up to, say, 50, 55. What I actually recommended was go with 65 plus. And the reason why is because we're using a lookalike audience. And when you're using a lookalike audience, you don't want to artificially constrain yourself here with narrowing down the age parameters. If we were just going with detailed targeting, it would probably look like something like 18 to, say, 55, maybe 18 to 50. Still much, much broader than they were going. But that's a big targeting mistake, is to be overly small on the age range. Again, with targeting, all things created equal, larger audiences are better. But because we've got a lookalike audience in here, we're going with 18 to 65 and let Facebook have a lot of leeway. They've narrowed down the gender just to men, which is fine. That's very, very much their target market here. In an industry that is, obviously, there are certain products tailored to men, certain products tailored to women. It's very specific in that sense. So that's fine. But again, if you're using a lookalike audience and you like we are here, and you wanted to go with all, that would be fine too. And if your product was, say, 90% male, 10% female, I would definitely be going with all if I'm using a lookalike audience, okay? Then we get down into the detailed targeting section. Now, the first thing that I would say is, what have we got here? 11, 12 different options, and we've got a mixture of interests based on things that they think these people like to be interested in, like Adidas and Nike and CrossFit, sport, stuff like that. You know, this is men's like sports, physical exercise apparel. And then we got all the stuff within fitness and wellness. So bodybuilding, physical exercise, physical fitness, running, weight training, yoga, etc. So first thing is, if we are using a lookalike audience, you absolutely do not want to also be including detailed targeting options. It operates as an and function. So what you're now saying to Facebook is, I want to advertise to people that are within this lookalike audience and meet this detailed targeting criteria. So that's a big no-no. So if we're using a lookalike audience like we are here, I would be getting rid of the detailed targeting options. All of them. Very important. Big Facebook ads mistake. Doesn't look like it, but it is. Next thing is, let's say we weren't using a lookalike audience. Would I advertise to this many detailed targeting options in one ad set? Absolutely not. I'm a big fan of using one detailed targeting option per ad set. I tell you why. If instead of having, you know, all 12 lumped into one ad set here, we had 12 different ad sets with one of these each in there, we could then work out exactly how good of a targeting option Nike is, how good of a targeting option physical exercise is. And maybe out of those 12, the average cost per purchase is $20. But maybe there are some, like physical exercise and physical fitness, that produce a cost per purchase of, say, $12 or $10. And there are others like bodybuilding that produce a cost per purchase of $30 or $35. That's how we get the average of 20. Whereas if you split them all out, you can work all that out, and you can just then narrow in on the best possible detailed targeting options and go with those. So I'm not a fan of stacking interests in detailed targeting. If we're using a lookalike, like we are up here, the 1% lookalike based on our website visitors, I'd be getting rid of all these detailed targeting options, which I'm going to do because that's how we're setting up the ad set. If we didn't have the lookalike audience and we were going with detailed targeting, I'd be looking to just have the one in there. So you can see that those weren't silly or stupid mistakes by any means, but they can make a huge difference. It reduces your audience size massively. And what the ad set looks like from a targeting standpoint is now very, very different to what it did previously. Okay, that's the cold audience ad set. Let's jump over to the warm audience ad set. So we got a lot of stuff that was very, very similar. Let's start from the top, just like we did. Okay, first thing is they were targeting a custom audience that includes all website visitors within the last 14 days. I'm a big fan of using custom audiences of all website visitors in your retargeting, in your warm audience ad sets, but why 14 days? Definitely extend that time horizon. So I would look to swap this out, get rid of that, and add in an all website visitors within the last 180 days. That audience is going to be much larger, which is great. And you're going to have lots of prospects in there that are great people that you want to put your ads in front of that don't necessarily fit within the last 14 days. You don't want to cut yourself off at the 14 days, particularly after the iOS 14 changes where it's more difficult to track people coming to your website. So the people that do make it there, it's more valuable to be able to retarget them. You don't want to miss out. Now, the reason why people go with things like all website visitors 14 days as opposed to 180 is they think, well, those are the people that are more interested. They're keener. They're more excited about the product because they visited the website more recently. You're right. And Facebook knows that. So they're going to start by advertising to people that visited your website yesterday, 2 days ago, 5 days ago, before they advertise to people that visited your website 5 months ago. But there may be someone that was not on your website within the last 14 days. Maybe they visited 2 months ago. But because Facebook can see a lot of what people's activities are on platform and to some extent off platform, maybe Facebook knows, oh, this person is actively just joined a new gym, or this person is actively looking for sportswear. They just purchased some from this website. Let's go ahead and put ads in front of that people. If you limit yourself to 14 days only, you miss out on all those people. So absolutely extend your time horizons. I like to go with the maximum of 180 days. Again, they're excluding the customer list in this thing. They wanted to advertise to people who have visited the website, but not people who have bought. I'd get rid of that for the exact same reasons as I talked about. Then when it comes to retargeting, absolutely, again, your audience here is going to be much, much smaller than your cold audiences. So you don't want any artificial constraints here whatsoever. So I would absolutely be looking to remove the city targeting, which is what they had set up, and go with the entire country. Go with everywhere you can deliver your product or service. The same then applies to age. We're going to go with 18 to 65. Then with gender, I really, with a retargeting ad set, would like you to include all. Very important. If you're advertising something like men's sportswear, for example, well, okay, yes, your target audience may exclusively be male, or just about exclusively be male, but there might be lots of women that are visiting your website because they're thinking about purchasing some of your products as a birthday present or a Christmas present, something like that. Perhaps they prefer men's sportswear themselves because of the way it fits or whatever. So you don't want to be excluding those people, particularly on the retargeting standpoint. That's extra important. And then they'd included a single detailed targeting option. And again, just like with the cold audience ad set and the lookalike audience, it acts as an and function. So you're saying to Facebook, I want someone to be a website visitor within the last 180 days, and I want them to be interested in physical exercise. Now, we know that these interests are not as accurate as we'd like them to be. There's recent data suggesting that they're inaccurate 30% of the time. Someone could easily be interested in physical exercise in real life and just not make it into that interest category within Facebook and Instagram. Anyone that has visited your website, for me, that more than says enough that they're interested in what you have to offer. Therefore, you absolutely want to remove all detailed targeting options all the time with any warm audience ad set. And this setup is hopefully going to help you get much better results. If you found this video useful, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.